I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're exploring a terrific book. It's called My Cemetery Friends, A Garden of Encounters at Mount St. Mary in Queens, New York, by Vincent Tomeo. This timeless work takes readers on a poetic journey through life's pathways, celebrating connections and encounters in a unique and heartfelt way. Join us as we uncover the profound stories and reflections that this author shares from his walks through the cemetery. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Good River Print and Media for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Vincent, great to have you back on our show today. Welcome to Spotlight.
Thank you very much and glad to be back.
This is such a terrific book. Tell the folks at home a little bit about the inspiration behind it.
I During the pandemic, I did not want to be stuck home. And I didn't want to have to wear a mask. So I drove to this garden, this cemetery, and I took the mask off because I could walk there and I don't have to worry about the dead because they're not going to kill me. And it was a pleasant and pleasing, serene. The birds were chirping, and the flowers were in bloom, and the trees, and so I just followed the pathway, which is a 3.5 mile walk, and I've been doing it ever since.
Amazing, amazing. Well, it's good exercise. We were all looking for something to do during the pandemic to fill the time. Like I said, the dead can't get you sick, so and they're quiet and they don't disturb your walk often, so that's all good. You made some friends along the way. Tell us about some of the folks you met in the cemetery.
Yes, I met this priest, Father Zanin, who was the chapel of the cemetery, I think, for over 35 years. Unfortunately, he has since passed. But he was in World War II, he was in the Korean War, and so he served his country, the United States, and he served his God. And he was a very interesting man. And he was in the Korean War too. I think I said that. Uh, and a few times he came to my poetry readings. And one time we went out for Korean food because he loved Korean food, especially kimchi and bulgogi and all the other Korean delights. But he was a very, very interesting man and a very good man. He said that during the Battle of Chosin, that if he survived and he didn't freeze to death, that he would devote his life to God. And that's exactly what he did. So hats off to Father Zanin. And so he is one of the main characters in my book because one day as I was walking through the cemetery, as I always do, I saw Father Zanin burying someone and there was nobody there. So I stopped and bowed my head, said a little prayer, and Father Zanin said, "Are you family?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, why are you here? Are you a friend?" I said, "No." I said, "Nobody should be buried all alone." So I stopped and I paid my respects. So he said, "Well, what brings you here?" I said, "I've been walking here for like 35 years. I have some friends who are buried here. My friend Chucky Eglin, who was killed in the Vietnam War, and my mom's buried here, and my Aunt Flo. So there's a whole uh, history of family and friends buried in this cemetery. So this is a garden of peaceful rest for those who have departed. Anyway, Father Zanin said to me, and it was raining. He said to me, "Let me, let me walk with you to your mother's grave and give her a blessing." So we walked to my mother's grave in the rain, and on my mother's grave, he gave her a blessing. And that was the beginning of a friendship for over 35 years. And when he passed away, the cemetery called me up and they asked me if I would do his eulogy. And I did his eulogy, and my poem is in his critch. Is that what you call
Crypt, I
where they,
guess.
yeah, crypt or critch, where they
Yeah.
put the ashes?
Yeah. Yeah.
So my poem's in there along with the Father Zanin's remains. He was a great influence to me, and so that's just one story. And then there's 6 degrees of separation. You meet someone who knows someone who knows someone.
Mm-hmm.
Another encounter I had was this guy Joe, who would play his bagpipes in the cemetery on different graves. And one day, after several times, I gingerly walked up to him. I didn't want to disturb him. And when he paused, I said, "Excuse me, I'm very curious. Why are you playing bagpipes on different graves?" And he said to me, "I'm honoring the firemen," because he was a fireman, "and policemen and first responders." And he goes from grave to grave playing his bagpipes. Then he also said, "I also come here because my wife won't allow me to play my bagpipes at home. So I have to come here where it's quiet and I could play my bagpipes."
Amazing.
So that was another encounter. I want to say that my book is archived in the Vatican, and so I sent the copy to the Pope. So they archived it, and I have a letter here from the papal with a papal seal on it, and so I'm proud about that.
Yeah.
And this is the for for Father Romano Zanin. That was the priest in the book, who's the main character. But the book itself is dedicated to the 10 soldiers from Corona, Queens, who were killed in Vietnam. So I honored them, one of which was Chucky Eglin, who I grew up with and went to school with, but who was killed in Vietnam during that horrible war. I was not drafted because I had rheumatic heart disease as a child, so I was not qualified. But I honor those guys that were killed. They were every race and every, they were working class background from Corona, Queens. They were white, Italian, black, African American, Hispanic, Irish, and they are, you know, they are never to be forgotten, along with the other people who died. I remember one Christmas I went over to the cemetery because I wanted to pay my respects to my mom, because it was the first Christmas that she was not alive. And Christmas was not the same with Mama. So I think this poem expresses that sentiment best. Over the fence. Mama, every day for 5 years I visited your grave. One Christmas day, I was late. The cemetery gates were locked. Climbed a bronze fence. Left my tracks in the snow. So, yeah, that really happened.
Yeah.
And as I'm walking, the security guard's in his car sleeping. So I passed him and I walked to my mother's grave, left my tracks in the snow all the way to my mother's, grave. And I, said my prayers, and then I left and I climbed over the fence and I went back home. And that was remarkable.
Yeah. That's one of the nice things about the walks you took. It was a good connection to your mother. she's there. So when you're strolling along, you contemplate about your life with her a little bit as well. And it's a nice tribute that you visited her so much, correct? Don't
Well,
you feel
thank
that way?
you. I
Yeah,
like to tell you a story. My
sure.
mom always used to say, when I die, make sure my feet are covered because she always had cold feet. So she had knit these little kind of, I guess, slippers,
Right.
and they were wool with a cotton with a ball on top, and they kind of look like cozy little slippers. Anyway, when mom died, I gave the funeral director her slippers.
Mm.
And a couple of days later, he calls me up and said, Mr. Tomeo, I have something for you. Uh, and when I went to, the chapel, he returned the slippers. I said, no, 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 no. That was my mother's wish. This is a bad omen. You're going to have to, bring up the body and put the slippers on. And he said, we can't do that. And I said, well, that was her wish, and this is a bad omen. And of course, I just went ballistic, and I kind of heaped vituperations on. So
Mm.
he said, okay, Mr. Tommy, calm down. I'll tell you what, we'll take $1,000 off the bill.
Mm.
I said, you know what? My mama would like that. Okay. So he took $1,000 off. And then I entered this poem in a contest, and I won.
Mm.
So I like to read you the poem.
Absolutely. Love to hear it.
And by the way, they are now on a rocking chair, which has been in my family for 3, 4 centuries.
Mm.
Well, yeah,
Generations.
generations. And my mom's slippers are on that little rocking chair.
That's wonderful. You have that part of her.
Mama's slippers, Mama's fuzzy slippers were sinking like Salvador Dali's painting, the persistence of memory. Her time is wrapped, hung down, bent over, exhausted, seems to hug, clasp, embrace the back of her favorite chair. Mama's fuzzy slippers are light, smoothly worn, spongy soft, squeezable, shaped like a small Native American boat, yellow, brown, interwoven wool. A playful wool ball crowns the instep of Mama's slippers. Mama's slippers could fit the feet of a ballerina in an interlude from an opera. Out of the blue, Mama would say, when I die, make sure my slippers are, make, wait, when I die, I'm sorry,
Okay.
Mama's slippers could fit the feet of a ballerina in an interlude from an opera. Out of the blue, Mama would say, when I die, make sure my feet are warm. I would pretend not to listen. Mama died, realized, listened. I gave the funeral director Mama's slippers. I thought no more of it. Mama buried, slippers returned. Whenever I hold Mama's slippers, my heart is filled with warm, sweet joy. I remember the smell of Mama's perfume. I'm going to give this
That's a
story.
beautiful work and a beautiful tribute to your mother, no doubt, that you love her so much and that she has such a lasting impact on you. It's nice that you have those slippers now. At first, it seemed like a bad omen. Now it seems like a connection to her. So I think
Yes,
that's great. That's
my
great. It's
mother was a treasure. She instilled in me pride and perseverance and work ethic, uh, and encouraged me to leave the farm, which that's for a better life and get
yeah.
an education. And I graduated college, and I went for a master's, and I went for a second master's, and I was a teacher for 38 years, and this gave me purpose, and I loved every moment of it.
Yeah.
The cemetery is a wonderful place to walk. It really is a garden. And I'd like to read you how many colors in a day as I walk through the cemetery. Dawn, moon blue, scarlet, lemon yellow, morning, silver gold, cornflower blue, midday, jungle green, primrose yellow, sky blue, afternoon, burnt umber, white, gold, marine blue, evening, light gray, flaming white, cobalt blue, midnight, moon, lily white, ebony black, darkest blue, a full day variegated. Yes, the cemetery is a field of monuments. Some of the tombstones are incredible. Uh, and there's a couple of stained glass windows from mausoleums. In fact, the cover of my book is from a mausoleum. I took a photograph, and this is one of the mausoleums. And it was just absolutely phenomenal. I looked in the little window and I saw that in the mausoleum, and I took a picture of it. So and that became the cover of my book. And in the back cover is Mama's grave, a tombstone, and flowers that are growing there. The cemetery really is a interesting place. I found peace and solace, and I met friends besides Father Zanin. I met this guy Joe who plays the bagpipes. I think I mentioned that to you. And then I met there was a lady. She was standing on a grave, and it turned out it was her son's grave. It was Marine Michael D. Glover, Glover, and he was killed in the Persian Gulf War. So it was Memorial Day, and I see this petite Irish American lady, and she's well. Anyway, let me tell you the story. One day I'm walking, and I see something gleaming in the light, and what it was a Purple Heart. And I was wondering, what is a Purple Heart doing here on the grave? And I just wondered why anyone would put a Purple Heart on the grave. So I just, stopped, and I said a little prayer, and then I walked about, and then I wrote a poem, and I placed the poem on Michael Glover's grave. And then I was walking, and it was Memorial Day, and I see this petite little lady standing at the grave. And I walked over, and she said, did you know Michael? I said, no. She said, were you his friend? I said, no. I was just I was just a person who paid respect, and I'm the guy who wrote the poem and placed it on his grave. And she said to me, thank you. And then thank you for remembering. And I wrote this poem, Reflections on a Purple Heart. On the grave of a soldier, I saw a golden medallion gleam in the light, like lightning in a storm, resting on a ledge of a gray tombstone. Bravo 25-4, Marine Division, Iraqi Freedom, 06. Lieutenant Michael D. Glover, the United States Marine Corps, January 1978 to August 16th, 2006. Iraq hold down his Marine patch, a Purple Heart on his monument, bakes in the sun. I stopped to say thank you. And then, I left that poem on the grave. And then Mrs. Glover, uh, when I saw her, we began to talk. And so I wrote this poem about that experience, which was overwhelming. Uh, I visited the grave of Michael D. Glover, Memorial Day 2013. Standing on Michael's grave, a petite Irish American lady got out of her car, said, "Were you his friend? Did you know him?" "No," I said. "I am the poet who wrote a poem and placed it on his grave. Reflections on a Purple Heart." "What a handsome boy he was," she said. "He was such a good looking boy, well traveled, well loved, well educated." She told the story how the military held his body for 10 days, his face wrapped in white cloth like a mummy, how the casket had to be closed. What does one say to a mother standing on her son's grave? Tears filled, tears rolled down her face. What can one say to a mother who lost a child? I thought I would cry. I thought my knees would cave in. I felt my heart ripping. I felt a massive lump like a rock between my heart and my throat. What does one say to a mother standing on her son's grave? I lowered my head, saluted, round my ran my fingers across his name, said goodbye. "Thank you," she said, "for remembering." I saw her drive away. How many more mothers must lose a child? What does one say to a mother who lost a child?
That's
Uh,
beautiful.
uh, yes.
It's really beautiful. It's really wonderful that you connected with this woman. I'm sure it meant so much to her that somebody cared enough about her son to write a poem. Um, you know, he
she
truly was a war hero. And so many of our war heroes aren't respected, aren't remembered, aren't honored. So I think that's beautiful of you, Vincent, to do that.
and we became friends. She would send me Christmas cards. I'd write to her, she'd write to me, she'd call me, I'd call her. And I guess we bonded. And unfortunately, she passed away recently.
Sorry.
And yes,
Yeah.
but she was a lovely lady, and and as I said, what a courageous lady she was.
Hmm.
She then got involved in Wounded Warriors Project and was always doing something for fallen heroes.
Yeah.
I'd
That,
like to,
go ahead.
yes,
I'm sorry.
no, no, go ahead.
No,
Yes.
you go ahead. You said you'd like to do what?
Well, I wanted to read another poem about the guy that played the bagpipes on the graves.
Oh, I'd love to hear that. I'd love to hear that.
Music ambles, drunk with sorrow. A lone man stands dressed in a Scotch kilt, playing bagpipes, pouring whiskey over a grave. The moon casts shadows of dancing clouds. Music ambles, drunk with sorrow. He stands desolate like a tree on a vengeful African savanna, prominent, eerie, petrified, alone. His footprints leave a mark standing on a freshly laid sod. A playful wind defiantly blows his red hair. A forgiving sun crowns his head as light washes his face against the cobalt blue sky. This chalk white man is turning blood red as his cheeks rise, blowing on his bagpipes. Quickly, his fingers move as if he were playing a piano concerto. The music is triumphant, not belligerent. Fills pensive air like a monet. Sweet, holy music hovers over the city of the dead. Now he is trembling in grief as glorious music reaches a dominant, piercing pitch. A hallelujah moment. A lone man stands dressed in a Scotch kilt, playing bagpipes, pouring whiskey over a grave. The moon casts shadows of dancing clouds. Music ambles, drunk with sorrow.
Beautiful, beautiful. You've done something that's difficult to do, to describe the music and the scene at that cemetery with the bagpipes playing and their mournful sounds. I think that's great as well. It's amazing what these walks through the cemetery, how much they've impacted you, from the friends you made, from the people you've witnessed, from the connections you've made with even nature being out there. I think it's really been a beautiful thing in your life, don't you?
Oh, yes. In fact, talking about nature, I befriended a fox. There's a fox that walks in the cemetery, and I kept bringing him food. And after a while, he would, I guess, I mean, the first time I saw him, he just popped out from a tombstone. And, I never waste food. So what was ever left over, I would bring it to the cemetery. He particularly likes veal. He has expensive taste. But, I usually leave some chicken or whatever. And now, when I walk the cemetery, he walks parallel to me. He doesn't come near me, but he walks the grave, the path that I walk parallel. I guess it's his way of saying thank you. I really believe animals have feelings.
Oh, yeah.
And I was told by one body passing in her car, she said, "Oh yes, he's around quite frequently. He frequents the cemetery, and he walks. He goes across the street to the golf course, and because it's like a pigtail park, and just roams freely. So it's really fascinating to see my fox friend. And it's anyway,
That's amazing. That's a great story that he walked along with you like that and walks along with you like that. Sounds like he's a bit domesticated. I think that's another story in and of itself, that fox you've got as a friend there. Vincent, you've done such a great job with this book. We're just about out of time, but I want to remind the folks at home the name of it. It is My Cemetery Friends, A Garden of Encounters at Mount St. Mary in Queens, New York. There's the beautiful book cover right there. It's a photograph taken by Vincent of one of the gorgeous tombs that are in this cemetery. It is a timeless work, this book, that takes readers on a poetic journey through life's pathways, celebrating connections and encounters in a unique and heartfelt way. Vincent, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
thank you, sir. And yes, could I just say one thing?
Absolutely.
It's been awarded 3 seals. There are 2 on this book. There's another one that'll be coming. And the seal is United States Review of Books recommended, and notable books, Pacific Book Review, and then there's a Texas review. And of course, it's archived in the Vatican. So
Wonderful.
that's
Wonderful.
my cemetery friends.
Well,
And it's a celebration of life. So
exactly.
find solace and peace and walk with me through the cemetery paths.
Vincent, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate your time. Love having you on the show. You're always articulate and insightful. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time until next time on Spotlight.